There's a one of the very common mitzvos that we do so many times a day, ideally over 100 times a day, is make brachos. So we have different types of brachos. The Rambam categorizes them into three types. There's brachos on hana, on pleasure, physical pleasure that we get. There's a bracha on a mitzvah, thanking Hashem because for the opportunity to do a particular mitzvah, and there are also brachos for that are just a praise. What he calls brachos hashevach, that are just praising God for certain things. For example, the brachos hashachar, the brachos that we say in the morning, hanosin lasech vivina, etc. All of those are brachos hashevach. Those are the three types of brachos. When we think about the formulation of the text of a bracha, there's a few very difficult points when we think about it. I guess I'll try to address three questions today. One is in the text. Two are in the text, and one is a general question. In the text of a bracha, every bracha starts with the word Baruch. Seems to be a simple word, very commonly translated, blessed. But when we think about what the word Baruch means in the context of something that we are saying to God, it is actually very puzzling what it means. What does the word Baruch mean? When you have Baruch in the Torah and Tanakh, so it comes from, it implies that one is being mashpia tov onto another. One is bestowing goodness, blessing onto another. So God blessed the Sabbath we have in the first parsha in Bereshis, or blessed Adam and Chava. It means he gave them certain. So there it says we have the lashon of Baruch, easy to understand. Baruch means like the way that all the Rishonim translators, Tosefes Tova, a riboy, a goodness that enlarges and grows.
That works in one direction.
Right. So that makes a lot of sense, and we have the concept of Birkas Kohanim, where the Kohanim are, so to speak, a conduit to bring God's bracha to people. We have the brachos of Yaakov that will come up next week, giving brachos the brachos of Yitzchak next week, and then we'll also have the brachos of Yaakov to his children. All of them are the idea that the person who has a certain special koach, a special ability to bring down God's goodness and bestow it on another, or God himself doing it. So that's the basic idea of how bracha is usually translated and how it's usually understood. When we are saying it towards God, at first glance it's actually extremely puzzling and problematic. What does it mean to say the word Baruch Atah, to say to God, you are Baruch, or to bless God, so to speak? What we call them blessings. What does this mean? How could we give a bracha to God? We understand how God could give a bracha to us. So we have lackings, but God doesn't have any lackings. There's no deficiencies by God. So how can we, so to speak, bless him? What can we provide? Right? We can't provide anything. So what does it mean? That's one question we try to deal with. Another textual issue is there's a very strange thing when you think about it in basically all the brachos that we make. We start off in what's called lashon nochach. Well, I think in English we would call second person, talking to God. The same way that we would talk to another person. Rishonim call panim al panim. We start pel pel. We start talking. We start off the bracham Baruch Atah. We talk to God straight, directly, the same way that we would talk to another person. That's the language that we start off with. Blessed are you. We talk directly to God, and then in basically every bracha, we transition. In the middle of the bracha, we change to what's called lashon nistar. I guess we would translate as third person. In here we're not talking about a person, but that type of a expression that we change to not directly talking to God. It's almost like a completely inconsistent lashon. Like for example, we say right, Baruch Atah Hashem, and then we switch to Asher kidishanu mitzvos, right? Who is the one who sanctified us with his mitzvos? Instead of saying kidishanu mitzvosecha, you who sanctified us with your mitzvos. We change from addressing God directly in that way, and we change to what we would call third person, lashon nistar, a non-direct communication, and it's like a drastic switch. We're used to these things because we say brachos all the time, but when you think about it, it's grammatically very strange to imagine talking to someone and you're addressing them, and then you all of a sudden switch to talking to them in third person.
Is there anything about Hebrew that makes that happen, or is it different?
No. There's no need for it to happen. It would be perfectly and even more grammatically typical to be consistent and use the same type of speech throughout the whole time. So that's the second question to try to address. A third question to try to address is that Chazal tell us in the Gemara Bava Kama and Daf Lamed that Hay man de boy li havi chasida, a person who wants to be pious, who wants to become a pious individual, he should be mekayim mili de brachos. He should fulfill the institution of brachos in some type of special way. So just a more understanding why is that? Why is that singled out? Why are brachos something which is singled out as the way to become a very pious individual? So I guess we'll go in order here. Going back to the first question, what does it mean? How would we translate Baruch? So we have an English translation, blessed, I think, right? So that's usually how it's translated. Doesn't really help us so much in understanding what are we doing. What does it mean to give a bracha to God? We don't have something that we can give him that he's lacking. It's seemingly different than all the other brachos that we find, and the translation of brachos as explained by Rashi and all the Rishonim. That means Tosefes Tova. So the basic idea, this comes from really all of the Rishonim, basically. It's in the Sefer HaChinuch, it's in the Rashba. Many different Rishonim explain this, that when we say Baruch to God, when we bless God, it does not mean the same thing as when God blesses us or when a person blesses another person. It means something different. When a person blesses another person, or when God blesses us, that means that, like we said before, they are bestowing something that they have, something special, and bestowing it upon another. When we're blessing God, when we're making a bracha, what we're doing is we're recognizing that God is the source of all blessings. That's how they translate it. So they translate it with the words makor habracha. That when we say Baruch, it means makor habracha. Baruch Atah means you, God, are the source of all blessings. It's a hodah, a thanks, an admission that every thing that we're getting, whatever the thing is that we're doing, if we're eating something, so then we are recognizing, we're sourcing that this food comes from you. If it's a mitzvah, so it's nourishment for the soul. So we're thanking God and we're recognizing this nourishment of the soul. This comes from you. Or if it's something, spectacular that we see, a big sea or a rainbow or thunder and lightning, we're praising God and recognizing that He's the source of whatever the thing is that is the topic of that bracha.
So wouldn't that be like mevarich? Like he is a mevarich, so it would be like.
Right. That's how you translate it. Baruch Atah means you are the source of all bracha.
Some people relate to the word like a pool, brecha.
Brecha, yeah. Many of the Rishonim,
as opposed to a knee that we're genuflecting, but where Hashem is like the pool, the source of all plenty in the world.
Right.
Yeah, that means to genuflect. There you're saying make.
I know. Is there any aspect of that in this too?
No, because that's what Rabbi Perlow said. That's you're telling people, you're telling people to bow to Hashem. That's a different story. That's Baruch Atah. There, you're not blessing Hashem. You're really showing an act of genuflection. Okay. But over there in the Baruch that Rabbi Perlow is talking about from the Nefesh HaChaim, is that Hashem is the source of all goodness in the world. So that's a different.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Olam Vayad. It's not quite the same.
Yeah. There is I think it's in the Sefer HaChinuch, who discusses the idea that Mr. Miller is saying that even in Alinu we say an interesting lashon. We say kol berach. Right? Everyone's knees, right?
Are
their
genuflecting,
knees. Yeah. And he connects that to the lashon of bracha, that it's the same idea as this. It's that right the act of going on one's knees or kneeling is showing that everything is coming from God, showing that it's this recognition.
Very good.
It's the same idea as what the Rishonim say, that this is the makor, that it's a recognition that God is the source of blessing.
Now you said before that, it's obvious that we mortals, we can't give something to God literally because He has everything, including us. But later in Korbanos is Reach Nichoach. What's Reach Nichoach about? Obviously, we're trying to impart something.
That's a very good point, and that leads us to our next source, which is Rabbeinu Bechaya. Rabbeinu Bechaya, one of the great Rishonim on Chumash and other Svarim, he first says this idea that in the simple understanding of what the word Baruch means, it's like we said, it's Makor HaBracha, but he calls it Al Pi Kabbalah. There's a way to understand it in a more literal way. There's a way to understand bracha in relation to God as an actual, as resembling the brachos where one is being mashpia onto another. And in a certain sense, kaviyachol, if it were to be possible, so to speak, we are providing something for God. What are we providing? So one way we could bring this out, or many of the Rishonim bring this, is the Gemara says in brachos that if a person eats without making a bracha, then it's as if they stole from God and from Knesset Yisrael, and the Jewish nation. And the Rishonim are puzzled over here also. What does it mean to steal from God, right? In order for one person to steal from another person, they have to basically make it that the other person now has less, right? But a human being is not able to create any deficiency in God. There's nothing that he can make less of God. So what does it mean when the Gemara says it's as if we stole? So the way that the Rishonim explain it is that God's will in this world is to bestow as much goodness as possible on mankind, to give everything possible to bestow the ultimate goodness. Kafi, in accordance with our recognition of the source of all of goodness, of sourcing everything that we get to God, in accordance with that is how much God is, so to speak, able to bestow it upon us. He created a world that has an aspect of din to it, a world where everything needs to be earned, and through the recognition of the hashgacha, of the providence of God, and of that Hashem is providing all of the things that we call brachos, all the things that we enjoy, that increases the ability for God to provide them. Right? It starts in the beginning of the Torah that the Hashem wanted to bring rain, but first there needed to be a human being, and a human being that was going to recognize where the rain was coming from.
So are we able to hold it back?
So
What'd you say?
that's how he asked if we're able to hold it back. Are we able to hold back the blessing? So that's exactly the point that Rabbeinu Bachai is saying. The reason why it says
Where's Rabbeinu Bachai?
this is it's in Kara Kemach, and it's also Al Torah.
Where else?
He talks about it in a few places. What?
There are 2 places of Torah.
Yeah. So in Erech Bracha in Kara Kemach. So
Yeah.
so he explains that in this way it's as if we are providing something to God when we make a bracha. God's will is to bestow goodness upon us, right? Hashem just wants to give, and when we make a bracha in the right way, we recognize, we source where everything is coming from. Then we are, so to speak, providing Hashem with the ability to do what He wants to do, to bestow goodness upon people. And in that way, the Rabbeinu Bachai explains that there is, in a deeper sense, there's a way that we can, so to speak, give bracha to God, bless God, provide Him with something. Again,
Beautiful.
so to speak, but that's the idea that he says. Regarding the second question, right? Understanding what does it mean? Why does every bracha have such a strange transition? Starts off that we're talking directly to God, panim al panim, we're talking to Hashem, Baruch Atah, and then it changes to third person, changes to lashon nister, changes to right. Hanosin l'sachvin or shakol niyabidvaro or borei priyal gafen. We never say you are the one who created the geffen. You are the one who sanctified it in this mitzvah. We change to a third person. So this is also a very big topic in the Rishonim, a very big, very puzzling thing. Why we make this transition? So the basic approach that the Rishonim have, and I think this is a very fundamental idea for our entire service of God, is that there is always a dual relationship that we have to have when approaching the service of Hashem. When we are trying to serve Hashem, there is the intimate part of the relationship. There is the recognition that we can talk to Hashem the same way that we would talk to another person. We can address Him. His will is that, and it's really an amazing thing that we could do it. That we could say Baruch Atah and address Hashem directly. But that's what Hashem wanted. Hashem wanted that we should be able to deal with Him as the same way that we deal with like a regular mortal man.
A lot of people can't even approach their own boss.
Exactly right. It's a very big kiddush that we can do that. It's a great novelty when you really think about it. And when you take a step back and you think about what we're doing, it's an amazing thing. But that's what Hashem wants. At the same time,
we can even influence Kiviyachol Hashem. We can
right.
After to even
right.
influence Hashem
right.
to do something like
right.
that. Like Bilam and Bullock, what's that all about?
Right.
All right, how could it, that's really radical.
Right.
I think you can influence Hashem for a particular outcome.
Right.
Well, that begins to edge over into witchcraft.
Or tefillah.
That's awesome.
And the other aspect that we can't lose sight of is that the mitzvos of Hashem, the essence of God, is something which is beyond our comprehension. It's beyond our our understanding, the essence of Hashem itself. And the way the Rashba explains this the clearest way, the Rashba explains that after we start off and do the first part, which is, going with our intimate relationship with Hashem and talking to Him directly, then we have to take a step back and realize, don't get confused. Don't think that because we have that aspect of the relationship that we can speak to Hashem directly, that means that Hashem is similar to other things, other people, or other creatures that we talk to. We have to recognize that Hashem's essence is beyond our understanding, and
Kabbalah,
therefore
it's called Ein Sof.
Right.
In Kabbalah, it's
Right.
But if you do the second part first, you would never get to the other part. In other words, if you started with the recognition of God's reality and the way we know
Right.
that it's well beyond
Right.
us,
Yeah.
that would stifle us from even talking
Right.
to Him at all.
That's a very
No
good
question.
point. That's why it always starts. That's a very good point. It always starts first with the lashon nochach and then goes to the lashon nister after. That's a very good point. So this is also perhaps this is the idea of this is ava and yira, right? Ava is connection, is closeness, is intimacy, and at the same time we have to maintain yira. These are the two of the most foundational mitzvos that we have in the Torah. Yira is we have to maintain that fear, recognize that we're. Rabbeinu Yonah gives a mashal for this. He says, right, Hashem gives us always in the world something which we can take a mashal, a representation of this, and apply it. So it says, look at the sun. It says it's only a mashal, but the sun we could get great things from. We could bask in the sun. We could get warmth from the sun. We can be able to live through the sun. But if we get too close, it will kill us. It's too light and too hot. It's not. We're not able to handle that level of light. So in the same way, we need to approach God with a desire to express that intimacy and take advantage of that He, so to speak, gave us permission to deal with Him like another creature, even though He's the creator. And at the same time, also remember He's a creator, and He's completely different mitzvos than everything else. This leads us back to the question of what is the idea of that a person who is careful about brachos becomes a chassid. Right, a person that Chazal, the sages teach us that one who wants to become a chassid, they should be careful about brachos. If a person thinks about all these ideas, right, we're making tons. Mili de brachos. We're making tons and tons.
Mili means the items, things dealing with brachos. A person perfects them. Mili the brachos becomes a chassid.
Like the performance of the mitzvahs of brachos.
Mili literally means words, but in this case it means performance or activities. Right?
So if we think about just these basic ideas, and this is only the Rishonim, they stress over and over, this is only a tipum in hayam, they say, this is only one drop in the ocean to really understand the depth of any formulation that's created by Chazal is way beyond our understanding. But even just what we're able to understand, right, we could understand maybe why this creates a piety. If a person starts off expressing, Baruch, recognition that all the different things that they approach in this world are sourced. Everything that they're being nana from, everything that they're benefiting from, whether it's a spiritual, it's a mitzvah, whether it's a physical, it's food, drink, it's aroma, whatever it is, a person goes through their day and they are constantly sourcing everything that they receive to Hashem. That's going to create a piety. In the same way, if a person focuses on this dual aspect of Ava and Yira, Avinu and Malkeinu, recognizing the intimacy aspect of a relationship, and at the same time the Malchus and the Yira, the recognition that the essence of Hashem is something that is beyond our comprehension. if we take all these ideas with us and we put them into brachos, which we're making tens and tens of times every single day, and specifically when we're enjoying something, then that will create a piety, because we'll realize that everything comes from Hashem. This will be so deeply instilled with us. If a person is so deeply instilled with the idea that everything comes from Hashem, that naturally creates a chasidus, a piety. Okay, shkoyach everyone.